Okay. I'm like all thrown off because I don't do well when I'm like thrown for a loop because like she has a section and I have a section. So I'm just going to roll with this and do the best that I can until she hops on. She should be home soon. So tonight's call is all about goal setting and the new year and, how to kind of organize or structure your business in a way that helps you reach your goals. And in the past, we've always focused on like the year at a whole, and that can be super overwhelming. And I think I've written elite down on my goal list, like, I don't know, for how long have I been a coach? 4 years, 4 times, and haven't hit it. So I've kind of given up that because I realized that that doesn't really mesh with what I want to do with this business. It doesn't really, it's like not aligned with how I want to feel and what I want to do. And so we thought instead of focusing on the year at a whole, we would focus on just the first quarter for now. And so Lindsay is going to talk about that and how to do that and like what we want you to do with that. But before we get into all of that, I wanted to start with recognition. So Lindsay will probably have to add hers in when she hops on. But unfortunately, she's not on the call tonight. She has a headache. But I wanted to shout out Colleen because she went Super Sunday with me today. Ours was on a Sunday because of scheduling with the corporate member that was at ours. And it's not easy on a weekend to take time away from your family, especially when you have 3 little boys running around. And she did it and she made it happen. And I think that's super important. I think it's important to be there at those events if you can be. I know sometimes it just doesn't work out with your job or whatever. But if you can make it happen, it's super important because you, number one, learn a lot. You hear from other coaches. You get to meet other coaches in your area, which is huge for networking because we're a team, right? We're not competing with one another. And you hear from corporate on the video. And then sometimes you get special guests from corporate and like the super trainers travel all around as well. So if you are interested in the next Super Saturday, you can find it in your online office, but the next date, I added it into the team calendar, April 7th. So write it down in your calendar. If you want to go, make it a point to schedule that in and set aside time to be there. Okay, moving on. My part of the call tonight is talking about long-term vision. I actually should have played the song Ray-Ban Vision because every time I say long-term vision in my head, I'm like, I've got long-term vision. Sing the song, Yeah, okay. So I think I know a lot of you were in Summer's training, Meet Me at the Tree. And I know that a lot of you are following her recipe now, which is amazing and definitely should be done. And then today at Super Sunday, we heard from Chelsea Pearson and Rob, her husband, 2 amazing people. If you don't follow them, you should. But they kind of talked about this as well a little bit. And so I thought it'd be perfect to talk to you guys about. And honestly, we say it a lot, but I don't think it can be said too much because number one, we have new coaches coming in all the time. And 2, I think we all need this reminder sometimes. So what I wanted to talk about is that this business is, well, first of all, a real business. And we can't come into it thinking that things are going to happen overnight or happen quickly if we're not putting in the amount of work that it takes to get there quickly, right? And a lot of us have part-time jobs or we're moms or whatever, full-time jobs. And so Beachbody is part-time. And so I think a lot of the times we treat it as a part-time business or a hobby even, but we expect it to be a full-time income. And there's like a disconnect there. And I think it's important for us to train our new coaches on this and to really help them to understand that this is something that takes time. And honestly, like when I think back to when I signed as a coach, I wasn't like, I'm going to try this for a few months and see if it works. I was like, I'm going to make this work. I didn't have a deadline. Like, I don't know if some people come in and they have like this deadline in their head that if it doesn't work, they're out. But I never had a deadline. I never like thought to myself, this has got to work by this date or I'm out. It was just, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to work this business. I'm going to try all these things until I figure out what works. I still feel that way. You know, I feel like there's things I still have to learn. There's things I still have to get better at. And like, that's just how I view it, is I just need to continue to tweak things and try new things until I find the thing that clicks for me. Because what works for Chelsea Pearson or Lindsay Matway or whoever isn't going to work for me. And we're all very different. So we can't look at someone else's journey and think, well, they did it in a year and I didn't do it in a year, so I must suck. And then you get in your head and you quit, right? And so your business should be more about like, who can I serve? Who can I help? Who needs me, right? Who can I help? But also your own journey, I guess is the word. Like, we all get so focused when we become coaches. We start as challengers, right? And we fall in love with the products, and we fall in love with the challenge groups and the community. And then we become a coach, and then all of a sudden we forget about our journey. We forget about our own health and fitness, and that can't happen anymore. Like, our health and fitness has to be number one all the time, no matter what. If you have 30 minutes in a day and you have to choose workout or business, you choose workout every single time, because you can't have a business without your own journey. And Kelly will tell you this all the time. Like, her business does better when she is a consistent product to the product. And when she gets off the wagon, she falls off the wagon, it's harder in her business. Why? Because you have nothing to talk about. You have nothing to share. You have no results to share, right? You don't feel confident in yourself. You feel like a fraud. You're like, well, I'm not even using these products. I'm not getting any results. So how can I help somebody else? So we have to focus, rather than like, you bring these new coaches in, and I'm guilty of this. Like, I've done this in the past, and this is still, again, I'm learning as a process. I brought new coaches in, and rather than reminding them to focus on their own journey, I'm like, okay, this is all the stuff you need to do to grow a business. And I forget to support them in their journey. And I think that's a huge, huge mistake. And I think we need to get back to focusing on ourselves first. So one thing that Chelsea and Rob talked about today, they shared a tracker, which I'll share with you. I think I have it printed somewhere. Yeah, this. Okay. I'll share this with you in a link if you'd like it. But this is called Win the Week. And rather than it being a day, it's focused on a week. So the idea is that we all have bad days, right? Like, we all have days where the day gets away from us, we didn't get anything done. And rather than feeling like a failure, we're like, with this anyway, you're like, well, I still have the whole week. Like, it's not about what you do in the day, it's about what you do in the week. And I can relate that to my health and fitness, because my husband always tells me it's about long-term energy balance. You have a bad day with your nutrition, who cares? You can correct. You can self-correct like throughout the week, right? It's the same way with this business. And they talked about, okay, and I think this is going to be really important for some of you. If you struggle with inviting, which is 99% of all of our struggles, right? It's like our biggest fear is inviting people. If you struggle with inviting, they said, fine, we give you permission to not invite, but you need to do all of the other vital behaviors like crazy. Like, you need to like go all in, be a product of the product, recognize your challengers, recognize other coaches on your team, and be proof the product works, right? If you do all of those other things, they're like, inviting is going to come naturally. Because if you're super, super focused on your own journey, your personal development, and all of that other stuff, then when you're doing that and you're sharing that on social media, people are going to start to come to you, because they're going to see you being a light in their life. They're going to see the results that you're having, and they're going to say, I want some of that, right? So if that's you, if you struggle with inviting, raise your hands. Then maybe you take time off of inviting this month, and maybe you make your focus about all 3 other vital behaviors, take the pressure off, and just go hardcore and focus on getting your own results, so that then you have something to share and can then feel confident in what you're doing and be able to help people. I think that's where the belief is going to come from, and that's where that long-term vision is going to come from. But you have to take the word quit out of your head. Honestly, real talk, I don't understand it. when people quit this business, I cannot even comprehend it, because I'm like, you don't want to be healthy? Like what? Like you just quit wanting to be healthy? I don't get it. Like I get like, okay, maybe you're frustrated with the business aspect, but you still want the products, right? Like they work. So why would you quit? And rather than quit, maybe it's just taking that step back and focusing on the things that you're good at, and fine tuning those things, and then coming back to it. So if that's you, if you're feeling frustrated with whatever part of the business, maybe you do what I just talked about. And I'll share this tracker. I have a link to it. And I also want to share something once Lindsay talks about, I see Lindsay's on because you all blew her up. Okay, so once Lindsay talks about like the goal setting and the picking your 1 to 3 things that you're going to focus on, then I'll show you the tracker that you can have the option of using if you want to. Lindsay, are you ready?
Yes. Okay. So Erica and I were talking last week about how to make goal setting real. And the reason why we wanted to focus on that is because we have for a long time talked about BHAGs, like big, hairy ass goals. We've talked about, setting like income goals and things like that. And it always kind of boils down to, you don't want to set goals that are so extreme that when you don't hit them, it makes you kind of like, I'm just not going to work anymore because I didn't hit that goal that I had set. And you don't necessarily want to set income goals that become, or any type of goals that become so far away that you don't know what you need to be doing today, this week, this month, this quarter in order to achieve the goal. So we really have decided that instead of setting goals for 2018 tonight, what we want us to all start thinking about is, what are 3 things? So we're kind of pulling from Shalene's strategy, where when she makes a to-do list, she writes down like 10 things she needs to do and then goes back through and crosses out at least half of them so that she can just focus on what really needs to get done. Because if you set all these amazing goals, you're going to end up overwhelmed, and some of them are either going to be forgotten. You're going to say, screw it. Or you might just say, I'm not even going to look at my vision board again this year because it's too much for me to look at. So we've decided that we're going to do a goal setting call once every quarter. So every 3 months, our team call is going to be another goal setting call just like this. And we're just going to focus on 3 things to get done that we're going to really work toward in 3 months. And so when you're setting those goals, we really want you to not just say, I'm going to make $500 this month, because it's kind of hard to figure out like what you're going to do with that $500, or where it's going to come from, or how you're going to get there. What you really want to do is say, like, I'm going to make enough money this month or this quarter to cover the cost of my car each month. Or I'm going to, like, one of my goals for January was to make enough money in the month to cover Smile Direct for me. So instead of just saying, I'm going to make $2,000 this month so that I can cover Smile Direct, instead what you want to say is, I'm going to make enough money to do this. And then you really need to break that down. And this is where the next piece is going to pop in. So tonight, what you're going to do when you get off this call, or early tomorrow morning, you're going to decide on 3 things that you're going to achieve in January, February, March. So our next call like this will be the beginning of April. So those 3 things, they can be fitness, they can be income, I know I'm using income goals, but that's not the only thing. We're not just here to be income people. One of my goals is to get my best body ever with 80-day obsession, to stay on the nutrition plan. It could be to have a date night with your spouse once a month or once a week. Or it could be, I really liked that someone, maybe Valerie, shared that she wants to have one-on-one time with each of her children once a week or once a month. I think those are great things to put down as a goal. It doesn't necessarily have to even be business goals. We're more than business partners here. But you're coming up with 3 things. The reason why it's 3 is because we're giving you 3 months to accomplish it. If you need to, you can really focus on one at a time in each month. But we also didn't want it to be overwhelming. We didn't want you to pick so many that you can't get it all done. We didn't want you to think that you had to have these humongo goals in order to be successful in life or in the business. So what I'm going to do tonight after this call ends is I've made a little graphic, and it says goal check-in. And just like in your challenge groups, you guys do your daily check-in and everybody posts their sweaty selfie underneath there in the morning. This first time, you're going to just post what your 3 things are. You don't have to get fancy. Like Erica said with the monthly goals for January, you don't have to make it all pretty. Type them up. But this is what you do need to do. You need to have them somewhere in your face. So I just talked about goal setting in our challenge group earlier this week. And one of the things that I said to them was, you need to see it. Like, you can't just say, this is my goal. You have to actually illustrate it. And one of the ways you illustrate it is by saying, not just saying I'm going to make $500, but by saying I'm going to make enough money to cover my car payment, but also having that goal in front of you. So let's say, for example, your goal is to stop snacking after 7 o'clock at night. Then you should have a Post-it note on your pantry door that says, I'm going to stop snacking so much. Or maybe your goal, like one of my goals, is to stop spending frivolously, because I'll just like after school decide it's me time and I'm going to go to Marshall's and $25 later have a bunch of crap I really don't need. So maybe in my wallet, I need to write a little Post-it note. Maybe I even need to wrap that Post-it note around my Marshall's credit card and say, you don't need this. and these are ways that you can illustrate your goal and put it in front of your face. So tonight, what you're going to do is actually type on that post what your 3 things are that you're focusing on for the first quarter. And then each week for the rest of the month and for the rest of the quarter, we're going to check in with each other on the same post. And we're just going to share, this is what I've done this week to work toward my goal. And then when you do achieve your goal, I want you to shout yourself out in the team page. I don't want you to wait for, like, I'm not going to tell Erica and have Erica shout me out. I'm going to shout myself out, because here's the thing, you guys. You're busting your butts at everything you're doing, whether it be momming, wifing, adulting, whatever it is that you're doing. You are trying so hard to be your best at it. That's why you're here. You're not here because you think you're going to be a millionaire someday. You're here because you want to grow. You want to become a better version of who you are right now. And that's why we all show up for ourselves every day. That's why we all push play every day. So I want you to start thinking, these goals that I have in my little list here, what are things that I'm doing today? What are things that I'm doing this week? What are things that I'm doing this month to grow me toward those goals? And I want you to celebrate yourself, because you're working so hard. You deserve, if anything, you deserve to recognize the work that you're putting in. So what you're going to do when we get off the call is share your 3 things that you're focusing on for the first quarter of the year. Again, they don't all have to be business things. And then throughout the month, you're going to be checking in, because the biggest thing about goal setting is we say we're going to do something, and then we actually need to take action steps to do it. So that's what we're really trying to hone in on. These specific things that we're going to focus on for a shorter amount of time, because when we say I'm going to lose 30 pounds, that's a real scary thing, because it's going to take a long time to lose 30 pounds. What am I going to do this month to lose the first 5? Okay. Is that what you wanted me to talk about, Erica? Was there anything else before I give it back to you?
You rocked it. What, Mindy, can we share in a thread so they don't get lost? Yeah, that's what we're
exactly. Yeah, that's what I said. I made a little graphic, and we're going to share it all in that thread in the comments.
Yes. And actually, since we have a minute, I just want to show you guys this. I think it's important to find, there's so many trackers out there in different ways to like track whatever you're doing. But I think it's important to find the one that works for you. So like, we're going to share a few things that we have that you can choose from. And if you don't want to use any of them, fine, you don't have to. For me, I think my big goal is to pay off the rest of my husband's student loans. It's $5,000. And I'm probably going to put it on my whiteboard and like literally write, like every time I pay towards it, like subtract. But I want to show you something real quick. I'm going to share my screen. This is a really cool one that I love. Can you guys see this? Nod. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. So this is really cool because it's focused on not Success Club points, but volume. So you see down here, you can see volume-based income goals, and you can choose like, okay, I need to make this much to be able to do whatever your goal is. So, you know, if your goal is to pay your car bill, then you obviously know how much that is. And then here over here shows you the PV amounts for different things. Obviously, we have a lot more than this available, but these are some of them. And then just some ideas down here. You don't have to pay attention to that if you don't want to. But here in the bubble is where you'll put your PV every time you help somebody. So it's not like I'm selling a challenge pack, but it's like I helped somebody with a Daily Sunshine sampler pack, you know? And you can put that PV in there and you'll know that, you know, this is how much PV I need in order to reach that goal. So it's just a visual. If you guys are visual and you like this kind of stuff, then this would be a good tracker for you to use. So I'll make sure that I put that in the team page. And then I know Lindsay had something too that was about households, about affecting different households, right?
Yes, I found this awesome one that's also pretty visual, where you decide how many households, because when we help one person in the house, it affects everybody, kids, the spouse, everyone that person comes in contact with, because they're becoming a better version of themselves, and there's that ripple effect. So I found a really great organizer for you to set like a goal of maybe in each quarter you want to help 25 families. And then you can start crossing off. And again, it doesn't have to be with a challenge pack. It could be like what Erica just said. It could be with setting them up with Beachbody On Demand or just Shakeology or Daily Sunshine, whatever. I also learned something at Super Saturday that I absolutely love. And if you see in the photo albums in the team page, I made a new album called Goal Setting. And it's just we're going to plug in some more resources because we did a whole training on goal setting last year. We're just revamping it this year into this breakdown instead. But I created a lot of like worksheets or tracking type sheets for your goals last year. And I'm going to put them in there. And then at Super Saturday, Megan Eggleston spoke to us, and she talked about fear setting instead of goal setting. And if you've already looked at the resource that I shared in the goal setting album, there's a part where it has you to identify obstacles that might come up while you're trying to achieve that goal. And it was so cool because I had already plugged that into that worksheet, but then she took it up a notch and she does what she calls fear setting. And she actually like breaks down the fear or the obstacle itself and then helps you to identify what exactly it is holding you back from setting the goal in the first place. So like, let's say, I don't know, maybe you have a goal of losing 20 pounds this year. What are some fears that might be associated with that? Maybe you're worried about what people will say, or maybe you're worried about how your spouse will respond. Because I know sometimes those are things that happen when people lose weight. But it's a way to like break down. Let me see exactly what she said. It's a way to break down. You define the fear by figuring out what the worst case scenarios are. And then you figure out ways that you can actually prevent those worst case scenarios from happening. And then there's a column that's labeled repair, where you actually figure out, okay, say the worst case scenario does happen, what would I have to do to repair it? And it actually helps you to visualize what you would do if the worst case scenario happened. And a lot of times she said it makes you realize that the worst case scenario really isn't that bad. It really wouldn't be that hard to fix or that kind of thing. I thought that would be a really cool idea. And what I'll do is I'll create a graphic organizer for it. And then I'll go live in the team page sometime this week to break it down more. Cause I know I feel like I'm just rambling about it right now, but that will be in there too.
Alrighty. Do you guys have any questions? Nada?
Hey, I ordered one of the Sweet Elite planners. Did anybody else get one? I know, but I was looking at it. She did it's kind of a weird video, but whatever. I watched it, and the planner itself looked like it was really nice. It's super concise, like it's got exactly what you need. It's got the bad in there, whatever. And it was only $30. So I figured I'd try it out. You know, I'm all floundering in my what do you call it, tracking over here. So the recipe things, they work. I got them, but yeah, I'm floundering. So I'm gonna try.
Let us know how it looks.
Okay, I will.
Recipe boxes, if you're following the recipe, there's really cute ones at Target for $5 in dollar section.
I saw those. Those were really cute. All right, if nobody has any questions, then we will wrap it up. Let me stop recording.